Well, I've been wrong before, brother. You know, I know I said you would never be nothing, but, you know, now I gotta eat my words,
I said the same thing about you, and I was true.
With my song, everybody went crazy, and he came up to me and doing a little interview while I was standing there. He says, yeah, well, I don't know why everybody is making so much of a fuss about this thing called rap.
But he was against it from day one, from us.
Yeah.
And he never, ever really wanted to do it, but he was working for ratings.
These artists utterly hated Don Cornelius and Soul Train. From Marvin Gaye, whose tense relationship with both Cornelius and Berry Gordy created tension behind the scenes.
I don't feel people should tamper with an artist's work. In music, they feel, disc jockeys and music people feel awfully free with editing and splicing and changing things about, and it drives me crazy. In fact, it's the reason why I left Motown and why I asked Berry Gordy to release me.
To Rick James's explosive confrontations that made for unforgettable television.
Because we enjoy doing it, we're doing it because it's part of the art. And we're being excluded from the art.
Even Dancer Rosie Perez infamously clashed with the controlling host who considered her too aggressive. So, here's why these artists despised Don Cornelius. For starters, we have Marvin Gaye. He was one of Motown's biggest stars, but he never fully trusted the music industry, and Soul Train was no exception. His problems weren't just with Don Cornelius, but also with Motown's founder, Berry Gordy.
I don't feel people should tamper with an artist's work. In music, they feel, disc jockeys and music people feel awfully free with editing and splicing and changing things about, and it drives me crazy. In fact, it's the reason why I left Motown and why I asked Berry Gordy to release me.
At first, Marvin seemed to embrace Soul Train. His performances were legendary, but what the public didn't see was the tension between him and the show's producers. Marvin wasn't comfortable with how Soul Train orchestrated performances, and he often clashed with the show's vision. Some insiders claim that Gaye disliked how the production handled his sound and presentation, and his relationship with Don Cornelius remained distant and tense.
I don't feel people should tamper with an artist's work. In music, they feel, disc jockeys and music people feel awfully free with editing and splicing and changing things about, and it drives me crazy. In fact, it's the reason why I left Motown and why I asked Berry Gordy to release me.
Then there was the Berry Gordy situation. Motown and Soul Train should have been a perfect match, but Marvin saw things differently. He felt like Gordy was always controlling his career, and Soul Train played into that industry machine.
Upon the Motown days as the good old days.
No.
Now, if Marvin Gaye's feud was subtle, Rick James's was the complete opposite. Their beef was loud, messy, and impossible to ignore. You could see it in their interviews. Don always gave off an air of barely contained frustration whenever Rick was in the building.
And we're not doing this for the sake of because we enjoy doing it. We're doing it because it's part of the art. And we're being excluded from the art.
When Rick James first appeared on Soul Train, audiences were electrified, but completely unprepared for the drama that followed. From the opening moments, Don Cornelius delivered cutting remarks, subtly attacking Rick's flamboyant appearance and excessive theatrical presence. The atmosphere grew charged as Don's composed demeanor directly opposed Rick's brash, confrontational attitude. However, Rick refused passive acceptance of such treatment. He responded with his characteristic sharp humor, entertaining viewers while momentarily unsettling Don.
That's great. I'm happy for you.
Yes, Don.
Couldn't happen to a better person.
Hey, well, that's what I said last time I was on your show, and you disagreed with me.
Well, I've been wrong before, brother. You know, I know I said you would never be nothing.
At first, fans just figured it was two big personalities putting on a show. And for a while, that's exactly how it played out. Rick would roll in, bring the funk, and trade playful shots with Don. But behind the scenes? Yeah, things weren't nearly as cool as they looked on camera.
Hope it's as successful for you.
So save your money, because you will be seeing us in the motion pictures.
Sources claim that Cornelius hated Rick's rebellious, unapologetic energy, considering it disrespectful to the classy, polished image he wanted for Soul Train. Rick, on the other hand, he didn't give a damn. He called Don a control freak who wanted to act like a gatekeeper of black music, and things only escalated from there. If Kurtis Blow represented the individual cost of Don's hip-hop hatred, the Sugarhill Gang's experience revealed how systematic his prejudice against the entire genre really was. Their historic appearance as the first rap group on Soul Train should have been a celebration of musical innovation, but instead became a tense confrontation between old guard gatekeepers and new school revolutionaries. The Sugarhill Gang had achieved something unprecedented with Rapper's Delight in 1979. They had introduced mainstream America to hip-hop culture while achieving genuine commercial success. The record's popularity forced television producers across the country to acknowledge that rap wasn't just a passing fad, but a legitimate musical movement demanding representation. For Cornelius, this presented an impossible dilemma. Commercial pressure was forcing him to feature music he personally despised on a show he had built around sophisticated R&B and soul. His entire brand was based on presenting black music at its most polished and respectable, making rap's raw energy and street aesthetic completely incompatible with Soul Train's carefully cultivated image. When Master G sat down for his interview with Don, he quickly realized the host's mind was already made up about hip-hop before they even spoke.
We were the first to do it.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
We were the first to do it. So, so he's interviewing me, right?
Okay.
And like you said, I know how to speak the English language.
No doubt.
So he was already offended because it was words and it wasn't singing.
Cornelius's hostility toward hip-hop was immediate and visceral. The very concept of words, instead of singing, violated his understanding of what belonged on Soul Train. This wasn't just aesthetic preference. It reflected deeper concerns about respectability politics that had shaped Cornelius's entire approach to black entertainment. He had spent a decade proving that black music could be sophisticated enough for mainstream consumption, and hip-hop's emergence threatened to undo that progress by confirming negative stereotypes about black culture. But Master G was ready to confront Don's condescending attitude head-on.
So as I'm talking to him, he looks at me and was like, "Oh, you guys are intelligent." I'm like, in my mind, because I was young and feisty, right? In my mind, I'm like, you basically trying to say you thought we was stupid. So I said, "Well, what did you expect?" And I kind of puffed up on him, And he looked at me, and I looked back at him like, "Yeah, what it is?"
The confrontation exposed the racial and cultural assumptions behind their conflict, with Cornelius's surprise at the group's intelligence suggesting he had absorbed negative stereotypes about rap artists. Master G's defiant response demonstrated that hip-hop artists wouldn't accept condescending treatment from anyone, regardless of their industry power or reputation. This represented a generational shift within black entertainment. Younger artists who refused to modify their authentic voice to gain acceptance from establishment figures. Even when forced to acknowledge their performance, Don's praise felt grudging and insincere.
After you finished it, Don go, "I want to say that it's pretty damn good."
No, he played it off.
He played it off.
He definitely, especially us being the first ones.
Yeah.
He totally was against it.
His admission that it was pretty damn good came across as a reluctant concession rather than genuine appreciation, revealing the deep resistance he felt toward legitimizing hip-hop as an art form worthy of Soul Train's platform. The Sugarhill Gang could sense his hostility throughout their appearance, understanding that despite their commercial success, they were not welcome on a show that was supposed to celebrate black musical achievement. This set a precedent where hip-hop artists appearing on Soul Train faced not just performance pressure, but personal judgment from a host who questioned their artistic validity. Yet even these early tensions couldn't prepare Don for the hardcore rap revolution that was coming. When Eric B. and Rakim appeared on Soul Train, they represented the evolution Don Cornelius had been dreading since hip-hop's emergence. Gone were the party-friendly rhymes of early rap pioneers. Rakim brought a hardcore street aesthetic and serious intellectual content that made Cornelius visibly uncomfortable throughout their entire appearance. By the mid-1980s, hip-hop had begun its transformation from party music to serious artistic expression. Rakim had revolutionized rap with complex internal rhyme schemes and philosophical lyrics that elevated the genre's intellectual credibility. Songs like I Ain't No Joke and Follow the Leader proved that rap could be both commercially successful and artistically sophisticated. But this evolution only made Cornelius more uncomfortable with the direction of black music. After undergoing 21-hour brain surgery in 1982 to correct a congenital malformation, Cornelius had admitted he was never quite the same afterward. The physical and psychological effects of this traumatic medical experience may have intensified his resistance to change and his preference for the familiar musical formulas that had made Soul Train successful. From the moment Rakim stepped in front of the cameras, Don couldn't stop fixating on the rapper's serious demeanor.
You don't smile too much.
I ain't no joke. I just...
Yeah, I gathered that, you know? No, I'm over here. See, Eric smiles.
A little bit.
What's the matter with your brother here, man? He don't like to smile, you know? He even through his whole song, man. He just don't even crack a...
Cornelius's fixation on Rakim's lack of smiling revealed his deep discomfort with hip-hop's increasingly serious tone, as he had always preferred entertainers who projected joy and positivity. Rakim's stern expression and intense presence suggested that rap was moving away from party music toward more confrontational territory. His refusal to smile for the cameras represented a rejection of the entertainment industry's demand that black performers make white audiences comfortable through displays of happiness and gratitude. When Rakim explained his artistic philosophy, it directly challenged everything Don thought he knew about positive black representation.
It's our image, a strong, positive image.
Mm-hmm.
That's Eric being Rakim.
I understand that. I'm not going to disagree with that at all.
I may give you a little smile, but Rakim won't give you none at all.
I don't like the way Rakim is looking at me, though, brother.
While Cornelius associated positivity with smiling and entertainment, Rakim viewed strength and dignity as equally important values for young black audiences. Cornelius's joke about not liking the way Rakim was looking at him revealed genuine anxiety about the rapper's intense presence. Even his attempt at humor couldn't disguise his discomfort with hardcore hip-hop's unapologetic masculine energy and refusal to defer to traditional entertainment hierarchies. This confrontation reflected Cornelius's inability to understand hip-hop's maturation from party music to serious artistic expression. Early rap had emphasized fun and celebration, but artists like Rakim were demanding respect for their intellectual content and refusing to smile for mainstream acceptance. When Rakim articulated his vision near the end of the interview, he demonstrated exactly why Cornelius found him so threatening.
It's our image, a strong, positive image.
Mm-hmm.
That's Eric being Rakim.
I understand that. I'm not going to disagree with that at all.
I may give you a little smile, but Rakim won't give you none at all.
I don't like the way Rakim is looking at me, though, brother.
This wasn't a mindless entertainer who could be easily dismissed. This was a thoughtful artist who understood Soul Train's cultural significance while refusing to compromise his authentic expression for television acceptability. The fact that Rakim could articulate his vision so clearly while maintaining his hardcore aesthetic made him particularly dangerous to Cornelius's worldview. It proved that hip-hop artists weren't the ignorant criminals that many critics claimed, but intelligent creators who had consciously chosen to reject respectability politics in favor of authentic street narratives. As Cornelius faced this new generation of uncompromising hip-hop artists, his worst fears about the genre's future were about to be. Don Cornelius didn't just have issues with Rakim. Insiders suggest his real grudge was against an entire genre, hip-hop. While most of America was starting to embrace rap in the late 70s and early 80s, Don was apparently not having it. He had a fair share of hip-hop artists on the show, but those times were often filled with awkward moments. The Public Enemy appearance of '87 brought out a weird side of Don that nobody was familiar with. Here, in this instance, he could barely contain himself. When he had Big Daddy Kane on, they both seemed to be trying to outcool each other so much that it was nearly uncomfortable to watch.
Daddy Kane.
By the time the late 80s hit, hip-hop artists were invited on Soul Train more frequently. The list of those who were opposed to hip-hop was certainly far greater in number than its supporters, for at least its first 15 years. There were multiple reasons. Racism definitely reared its head. Many of the older generation just didn't get it. Plus, the further you traveled away from the urban life, the less it was embraced. Anyway, when the Sugarhill Gang made history with Rapper's Delight, they got an invite to Soul Train. But Don was clearly not a fan. It can be seen him barely engaging, giving the group a condescending tone during their interview. He just couldn't hide his disdain.
From us, he never, ever really wanted to do it, but he was working for rating.
The Sugarhill Gang came straight out of Englewood, New Jersey, with members Henry Big Bank Hank Jackson, Michael Wonder Mike Wright, and Guy Master G. O'Brien. They weren't a crew that came up together. Producer Sylvia Robinson, the mastermind behind Sugarhill Records, put them together herself. The label and the group both took their name from Harlem's Sugarhill neighborhood. In 1979, they dropped Rapper's Delight, the first rap single to crack the Billboard Hot 100's top 40. That track is now legendary, considered one of the most important rap songs ever. But while they never scored another big hit in the US, they made noise in Europe with tracks like Apache, Eighth Wonder, which they even performed on Soul Train in '81. Rappers reprised Jam Jam and Showdown with the Furious Five. By 1985, the trio had run its course and called it quits. But according to insiders, Don saw hip-hop as ghetto music that had no place on his show. He believed it was just a fad that would fade away. Well, we all know how that turned out. Kurtis Blow, one of hip-hop's founding fathers, had the honor of being the first rapper ever to appear on Soul Train. But Don Cornelius was less than thrilled. Actually, Don Cornelius was all about keeping Soul Train a positive space for black youth, so when hip-hop started taking off in the early 80s, he didn't quite know how to handle it. He had real concerns about the hard-edged, street-driven sound and the aggressive lyrics, feeling like it wasn't the kind of image he wanted to promote. And he didn't exactly keep those opinions to himself. In fact, he straight up told Kurtis Blow, on air, that he didn't even understand what he had just performed. And for Kurtis, that was brutal. He later admitted that moment crushed him. Don Cornelius of Soul Train. First time I went on Soul Train. I was the first rapper on Soul Train. Now when I got there, I had The Breaks out. The Breaks was #1 record in the country, R&B. And he introduced me. I did my song. Everybody went crazy. And he came up to me to do a little interview when I was standing there. He says, "Yeah, well, I don't know why everybody's making so much of a fuss about this thing called rap, but, you know, it's my job and I gotta do my job, so here it is." Reports say Don didn't even want Kurtis on the show, but was pressured by executives to acknowledge hip-hop's rising influence. He reluctantly introduced Kurtis, but sources claim he made zero effort to connect, and the feeling was mutual. Kurtis later admitted that Don didn't respect hip-hop at all, and that rappers were only tolerated when the music industry forced them onto Soul Train. By the 90s, hip-hop had completely taken over. Soul Train had no choice but to start featuring rap stars. But Don, he still wasn't feeling it. Artists from Bad Boy and Death Row Records, two of the biggest forces in hip-hop, were making waves on the show, but Don made it very clear he wasn't impressed. He gave artists like Diddy, Tupac, and Snoop Dogg the cold shoulder and refused to adapt to the new culture.
Backstage at the BET Awards, if Don Cornelius didn't show his face, I think it would have escalated to that point.
In one infamous incident, Don publicly dissed hip-hop, saying, "Soul Train is about real musicianship. This stuff will not last." Little did he know, hip-hop was about to run the world. It wasn't just rappers who had issues with Don. Even the dancers weren't safe. You see, the Soul Train dancers were just as famous as the artists. But behind the scenes, dancers accused Cornelius of favoritism, mistreatment, and controlling behavior. Rosie Perez, who got her start on Soul Train, had one of the most infamous showdowns with Cornelius. Actress, dancer, and choreographer Rosie Perez grabbed the spotlight on Soul Train at age 19 when she came out to LA from Brooklyn.
I just do.
Rosie was viewed as being aggressive and sexy, like a machine gun. Other dancers were intimidated at first and weren't initially kind. "Don Cornelius did not want to see how I really danced," said Perez. "I was doing hip-hop, and it was foreign to people out in California. They only knew about popping and locking, so they were not keen on hip-hop dancing. Then I had to dance in high heels, and I never danced in high heels before, and I had this little tiny short dress, and it's riding up my and I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't move. The first couple of times, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just excited and nervous and scared and just elated. That was my style, a bunch of nerves just oozing out of my body. I was very proud of my body back then. I was hot." Cornelius wanted Rosie to join a female vocal trio he was putting together and sign a contract. She refused even after he took her out to dinner. She didn't dance again on the show, but a lucky break came for her when she was visiting the show and dancing by herself in the corner. She was spotted by record company executive from MCA and signed a choreography contract to teach singers how to dance. "That was the beginning of my choreography career," Rosie says. "That's how it all started. It started from Soul Train. By the early 80s, Cornelius started changing. His health deteriorated, and he suffered from severe headaches. In 1982, he underwent a 21-hour brain surgery to correct a congenital blood vessel deformity. The surgery saved his life, but it also changed him. He became more irritable, detached, and paranoid. Some say this was when he lost interest in Soul Train. Why? Some say it was his declining health. Others claim he was forced out. Whatever the reason, his departure marked the end of Soul Train as fans knew it. By 2006, Cornelius wanted out of the business, and he called Avant. He knew the music scene had moved on. The syndication model that Soul Train used was outmoded in the 21st century. It needed to be contemporary like American Idol. Cornelius sold Soul Train in the spring of 2008. He was 71 and a very rich man. By 2012, Cornelius was battling depression. His health had declined. He told friends he didn't know how much longer he could take this. Then, on February 1st, 2012, Don Cornelius was found dead in his Los Angeles home. A self-inflicted gunshot wound. The man who built an empire ended it all alone. It was a shocking end to one of the most influential figures in black entertainment. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.